live, all the way live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Bobby Dizzle podcast. Be sure to subscribe, share, and check out bobbydizzle.com for all ways to listen on the audio podcast and on social medias. And again, please subscribe. But enough about me. Here is Rob Tipless. I just literally screwed your name up after practicing. Rob, holy shit. Oh my God. I just
didn't get your name up.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. It's Rob
Topless. Rob from the UK. Rob from the UK will do.
Yeah, from the UK. He's coming to us live from Ireland, he said.
No, from just the UK, Derbyshire.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
and
okay.
Live from France.
Yeah.
He is a Bigfoot and cryptid experiencer and has been harassed by them since early 2020 or before that. Yeah,
so my story goes, I started recording them in December of 2019.
Okay.
Fog-filled December, winter's night, just after watching a video of a local sighting to me where I lived. So I just left a random recorder on the off chance. And rather than it being silent all night, it did catch loads of odd audio and activity. So I repeated that about 8 times to progress a little bit through this. Over a period of about 12 weeks, I sighted one, the train line near Cromford Canal. And basically, I started like being a real pain to them and got to know too much. I was like, so some of the things I was doing, I was chasing them down on my e-bike, just trying to directly chase them down just to film them. Not having no fear of them, asking them like during their time, midnight.
Did you say on your e-bike? You were chasing them on your e-bike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sat ignoring bus charges, ignoring large growls made at me and stuff like that, and basically sitting in places where I knew they would frequent with the expectation of one running up on me and filming like on my phone. Just not thinking very clearly. Like one example, the night what really made them turn on me is the night when I was sat in my front room about midnight and I was just about to go to bed and I heard all this fake owl calling and stuff coming down past my abode. I got a train line just opposite in the river. So I knew what all that was from all my audio recordings, what I'd got prior. And I decided to jump on my e-bike and chase them down to try and get a video of them. So I jumped on my e-bike, went all over the top way of the valley and didn't get another fake out, nothing. There was one step ahead of me. So I come all the way back down to Darlydale, started rolling down the main road home and I heard the fake owl call in the distance behind me. So I turned on my lights off, turned around, slide down onto Whitworth Park and sat on a bench at the bottom of Whitworth Park with my phone running. I had the fake owl on the train line there. Then one come running on the park, chasing the geese. All the geese panicking and flapping into the pond, the big heavy footsteps and stuff. And I was sat there and I started sensing an intensity and a bit of fear and stuff coming to my senses a bit. So I decided to just cycle home. So I did that, just gently rode home. And I knew that it'd be coming back down the train line. So I got this game camera that I'd got, covered all the infrared lights and tape. Mm-hmm. And strapped it to a tree facing the train line, hoping to catch them on video. And there was one step ahead of that move because it turned out that the game camera had tapping on the back of it, like letting me know, we're aware that you've just done caught again, sort of thing. And that's was a turning point because 2 nights later they turned on me. So the next night after that game camera ordeal, I had a spare one of these game cameras, what I got from Amazon. So I smashed it up and put it in the place where I'd put that game camera up. That's how certain I was that I got caught, and smashed it up and left it there to show that I was sorry. I recognise I shouldn't have done that. Interestingly, that game camera got took. The bananas what I left with it didn't. But the next night I was laid on my settee after that, and I can remember seeing 2 red-eyed beings going left to right like that. Covered red-eyed beans. I'm laid on my seat like, trying to shake my head like, what's what I'm looking at here? What's going on there? And basically, that was 2 Bigfoots, what were sanctioning my attack, if you like, which commenced the very next night. in Matlock, and it was horrific to say the least. So these same beings what I've been recording, which like they used to do fake owl calls, odd barking, odd yowls, and stuff like that.
You said owl calls?
Yeah, fake owl.
Okay.
But like you could tell an off owl, and sometimes a lot more powerful than an owl. And some of the times, it just sounded like an half-hearted attempt, you know what I mean? Like with a massive element of like human aspect to it, or human style aspect to it. So I had them same characters coming towards my abode and basically jumping all up and down the balconies, big, like angry, hanging about. And this happened March 2020. So the exact same time when the coronavirus lockdown was in the UK.
That's very convenient of a time frame.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
no.
Nobody was even allowed to.
Wild trees.
So
I'm going to bring them in.
In the UK, nobody was even allowed to go out of the house unless it was just for shopping. So that was in March 2020, and at that same time, exact same time that they turned on me, I had this Derbyshire, UK. Derbyshire, middle of the UK. And so basically, the exact same time that they turned on me, another weird phenomenon happened where I had this evil interference in all my electronics. So as I've got now, I've got hi-fi speakers, I had different speakers and different hi-fi. But whatever I was watching, YouTube or Skybox, whatever, I had all this evil interference in the audio. And outside of my abode, if I put the window slightly ajar, I could hear the characters all angry and doing the calls and this squeaking, like a younger one was squeaking and stuff like that, like squeaky boys, I used to call them. And basically there was an odd hum appeared in the atmosphere outside. I did send you a little sample of that, didn't I, earlier tonight. So all them three things coincided all at once, where the all too familiar characters turned on me and started attacking, coming to my home and harassing me, jumping all over balconies and all stuff like this, all phenomenon going off with these characters. This evil interference occurred in all my electronic audio, and at the same time this odd hum appeared in the atmosphere outside. And when this was occurring, I'm just to communicate to your listeners, I'm not by no means, I'm not the bravest character, but I'm certainly not a wimp, you know what I mean? I'm not a chicken sort of guy, hence me chasing them down, trying to record them directly, a bit stupid, but also dumbly brave, you know what I mean? Like idiotically brave. So when that happened and they was doing this to me at my home, my first reaction was like anger, and I was on about like putting my coat on. I was doing an audio record of what was going off, talking into that. So about putting my coat on and going out there and saying piss, get lost. You know what I mean? I'm not being intimidated, all that sort of thing. But anyway, after 2 nights of this, my attitude or my inner self or whatever, it totally changed, and I was scared to high heaven. I was having anxiety. I was like thinking that any minute now they was going to literally just smash in my patio door, snap my neck and run off. What's to stop? Fearing for my life. I was very scared, confused, head fog, and I couldn't understand why I was feeling like that. Yet I called it in my head Bigfoot voodoo. I was being voodooed. That's all. I didn't know of any claimed infrasound abilities of these beings or anything like that. I just knew that I was being affected by whatever these beings were doing to me, this odd hum and this evil interference and this harassment, and basically was affecting me as a person, my inner self massively. And so Bigfoot voodoo, I called it.
We always call that Bigfoot mind fucking.
Yeah. So I was explaining this Bigfoot voodoo, which I called it, and so I basically had to go online and sort of research quickly, like Bigfoot harassment, Bigfoot attack, Bigfoot, home, coming to your home, Bigfoot, and I come across this claimed ability to infrasound and all the side effects of that. So anybody what doesn't know a deal about infrasound, which is 95% of the population, as I never do, infrasound is like low frequency below the human hearing range, but of course at times it overlaps into the human hearing range, and it's a very complex subject. It's had a little study because it's not that relevant to us as humans because we can't hear it. Elephants can do it, tigers can do it to stun the prey. I believe elephants can do it, and it travels 10 kilometers, for an example. The military have used it as weaponized it, what they could use against the people if they needed to. And it's known as the fear frequency. So it does have known effects on the human body, and you can't resist them. You know, every human would suffer these effects: fear, confusion, apprehension, anxiety, brain fog. You know, like we're talking about panic attack level, infrasound. That's the word. Yeah, infrasound. So this the higher frequency one, ultrasound. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about the low guttural infrasound ability, basically. And all the side effects of that matched exactly what I was suffering. And just 2 nights of this, after 2 nights of this, I actually written an email to Scott Carpenter. So just to mention, if anybody's wanting to get accurate information on these beings, Sasquatch Awareness Project is a really good website which Scott Carpenter's done to help people, and it's got all categories. You'll actually see me in the comments of one section, the harassing at home or spiritual ability, or one or the other. You'll see me in the comments, Rob Top, begging people for information, to help me. So I got in touch with Scott Carpenter. This was just after 2 nights. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I said, please, Scott, I beg you, please, in Jesus, may you be blessed by Jesus. I really need your help here. I've been recording these beings. It's gone really wrong and they've turned on me. And I don't know what's going off here. But after 2 nights of this, I feel like I'm nearly at a mental breakdown. That's how strong the weapon was. That's after 2 nights. So just bear that in mind when we get into just how much suffering they've actually put me through. That was after 2 nights, and I was declaring to Scott Carpenter that I was near the point of a mental breakdown. And it's not that I'm a weak person; I'm a strong-minded person. It's at Matlock, where they was doing this to me, and it was during the coronavirus lockdown, and was like the perfect situation for them, because the apartment below said this is an apartment. The apartment below was empty. The lady had died. The bottom one was like the couple in their 80s, and basically they was using the balconies as well as the cliff side, which was near my apartment, and using all that to harass me. And Matlock I'd describe it as horrific. I'll give you any questions, or do you want me to just carry on? I could just keep.
I had one I was going to bring up real quick. Mindy, she's also a biologist. Yeah. She wondered if they came out to see what was going on since there's no people out during lockdown. Yeah, maybe that kind of threw them for a loop.
Yeah, no, it was to attack me. That's it was a very direct coming to my home with massive intent on driving me out of that home, and so that's what they did. It took them 3 months. I'd lived there 8 years. I worked in the area. It took them 3 months. But at 3 months, I took the towel in and I left that home. They drove me out of my home. It was that bad. So just to give you a bit of indication, I'll just talk through like what Matlock was like. So it was really horrific. I've described what it was like after just 2 nights. I felt like I was, like near mental breakdown. I didn't understand what was going off. I was confused. So I learned that in my apartment, the worst place to be was in my front room, where it was most open, the most windows, a double patio door, nearest the balcony, nearest the cliff, the big kitchen window. I was getting mostly affected in there, and the interference was the most in that room. So I learned to not be in that room. Do you know what I mean? When the attack was underway, I sort of retreated more into my apartment. And basically, long story short, I ended up like sleeping in my hallway. It was that bad, where I was sleeping on like just a mat. With my recorders going out to put pillow off my bathroom extractor fan, was blowing it down that, hitting my bedroom windows with it, and it sort of knew what room I was in all the time, or it certainly appeared that way. I learned eventually, so I contacted Scott Carpenter and I asked him, sorry about the colour changing on my screen, is that irritating people? If it is, let me know. Just my TV screen.
It's kind of a neat lighting effect. It changes every so often. Yeah.
Okay. I asked Scott Carpenter. I said, please let me know if there's anything I can do to resist this weapon. I need it. Please let me know. And even, Scott Carpenter, as acclaimed and knowledgeable as he is, was like, do you know what? I don't really know if there is. And it turns out that you can't actually fully resist infrasound. So you think that you'd be able to. You think, okay, so it's sound. Like, for example, if you cover up your ears, put the foam earbuds in here, you think that'll be it, job done, sort of thing. But no, you still hear it through the bones in your head. And this infrasound is of such a frequency where it mixes the inner ear fluids in your ear, and it makes all sounds all stew with, where you're confused whether it came from over there, mixes your inner ear fluids, your balance goes. I've already discussed the effects it has on the human body, fear, anxiety. Like, I'm no wimp, but I'm not ashamed to admit that I've had some panic attacks, like proper panic attacks. It ain't me. It just ain't me. But yeah, this powerful weapon had the ability to do that to me. So I'm laid in my hallway, and I'd be trying to lay down to rest to sleep, and they'd be arresting me to high heaven, doing all this calling, yelling, owl calling, banging all over the balcony, jumping about all over, and I'd be feeling scared. Like, they'd be such an intensity, I'd be thinking, like, my life's in threat here. I'm uncomfortable, and I'm going to have to get up and put my lights on and get up. They'd do that, and so basically they had that pattern where every time I tried to lay down to rest, they'd harass me more to get me up, sort of thing. And then when I was up, that was exactly where they wanted me, and they'd carry out this low life, underhand, evil infrasounding of me. So it was really horrific, and it took 3 months in Matlock, basically, and it was of such a intensity that I gave up my home. So just to indicate to your listeners, that's some powerful force. It's driving a person out of his home. I never would have left that home. And I've actually, just to give my story a little bit more credibility, when I'll get into this is a long story, and I'll get into a lot more of this, and there's reasons why I took this integrity test. But this
I forgot to actually mention that. I was going to mention the lie detector test.
Okay. Yeah, so this is just liedetectortest.co.uk. I paid £400 for this test. There's my photograph. And I did this just to prove my integrity after I thought it had all ended. It turns out it's not all ended. It's still harassed me to this day, even right now. But, so this is the lie detector test. And, of course, I paid £400 for this just to prove my own integrity, and that what I'd gone through, was a very real thing, etc. So a bit of a discussion with the examiner. So, of course, when I phoned up, it was quite humorous. She was like, yes, what would you like to be tested on? I was like, I've seen a Bigfoot. She's like, you what? You what? And she said, no. She says, we can't prove that. I was like, well, what do you mean you can't prove that? She was like, well, you could think you've seen one. I was like, oh, right, yeah, I suppose you've got a point. Yeah, okay, bye. Ended it. And I thought afterwards, it's more powerful than that. So my questions anyway were this. Did you see what you know for sure to be a cryptid? I played it safe and said cryptid rather than Bigfoot. Yes or no? I said yes. No deception indicated. Was the sole reason, so another way of saying that is, was the only reason, one reason for leaving Matlock because you were being harassed by the cryptids? Yes. Told the truth. So we're getting a bit more powerful now, because we've got here a lie detector test where I'm saying the only reason I left that home was this harassment. No other reason, no financial worries, no threat from other people, no, none of these other aspects. Did you lie to anyone about your Bigfoot experience? No. Passed. No deception indicated. So that's all during all this recording them for 3 months. They turned on me in the 2020. It went 3 months in Matlock, 4 months at the roof apartment. I thought it was all over. So that's 7 months. Didn't tell a single lie to anybody about my Bigfoot experience. So I'm not about to start lying now. Do you know what I mean? So just your listeners can have true faith in me as an honest person, and actually learn a lot from this interview, because we'll be touching on a lot of the Bigfoot woo, should we say. Did you lie when you said that you saw the cryptids more than 4 times? No, I did not. Told the truth. It's actually about 10, 11 times, maybe even 12, something like that. And that's not including self-illuminating eyes looking back at me when I open my windows and stuff like that. So this is what happened at Matlock. Basically, it was getting really intense in Matlock, and during a lot of this, it really angered me that they were turned on me. I can understand now, to be fair to him, I can understand that I did dozens of things what would have made them angry and like perceived me as a threat, peed them off, and like I can kind of understand that I had to go from Matlock. I can kind of understand that now on reflection. But basically, at the time, I felt like they were turning on me and harassing me, like, because during the first 2 nights, which I've mentioned, 3 words stuck in my head. And so these 3 words are very important for all your listeners. Evil. It was evil. There's no other word. It wasn't like terrible or quite bad. It was evil in capitals. Powerful. So powerful. I would have touched on that, but I could go so much further into communicating just how much of an effect it had on me. Do you know what I mean? Like powerful, merciless, and they still harass me to this day. We'll get into that a bit later on because it's to less intensity. But so evil, powerful, merciless. Then 3 words were imprinted in my mind after these 2 days. Then 3 words were imprinted in my mind, and they've proven to be the case all the way through this. Never has it shown me any compassion or forgiveness or, I mean, I had feelings of empathy, just black-hearted, evil, satanic, like harassment. It's been horrific, to be fair. Yes.
That's
so, yeah, okay.
The way you described it is the way I talked to a fellow from Colorado who said if you felt that way to get the hell out. Like get out of the woods. So I can understand that like that's what they do when they try to kidnap you and take you away. So it's weird they singled you out. What kind of terrain is around where this happened?
Okay, so they call we've got to be careful with the names, Matlock and Matlock Path. They call it Switzerland of the Peak District, so it's very hilly and cliffs and 3,000 old lead mines and all things like that.
So it's not like inner city. It's actually like it's got some.
No, it's a retirement town, Matlock. So, but it's got so many little nuts and crannies and everything. You know what I mean? And the train line, canal, river, all in the vicinity, etc.
So it's right below Sheffield. Am I hearing?
Chesterfield's more near Sheffield, but so Matlock's more rural than that. So
it's in that area. Okay, I'm looking it up. Sorry, I was looking it up on the.
Okay, so just to describe again, it was in Matlock. It was getting so intense because they was harassing me that much, and it was literally blowing my head up, really blowing my head up. Do you know what I mean? And basically, I was like trying all the time. I was in my bedroom window. I've got so many like powerful torches, like 18,000 lumen torch, one that goes nearly a mile, a thrower. Like illuminating the torch up as I'm in the window trying to record and catch them on camera and stuff, and all sticks of beer and stuff. But I never could like catch them. I could never understand that aspect. And basically, So at the same time, I started getting very angry, and my mouth sort of ran away with me, where I was saying the worst things. You know what I mean? Like you should have been drowned at birth, and. You know what I mean, you foul things, and you know every insult I could think of, I said because it was torturing me. Basically, it sort of drove me to that. Is that
understandable?
You're literally basically where you just got there. We arrow go towards. I live basically just there where the River Derwent is. You can see McDonald's. You can see River Derwent there. No, left a bit up a bit,
River Derwent,
right a bit. There's some apartments just there, right a bit. Yeah, just there. They're apartments. If you zoom in more, I lived in one of these. If you zoom in more, go left a bit more. See them like rooftops just near River Derwent there, or A6. I lived in the end apartment closest to the roundabout.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of, they had kind of a straight shot from those woods. I was going to ask. And it checks out because a lot of the ones you see that are in even an inner city, like kind of in the urban areas, are always near water like that.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, when they was harassing me, I'd hear them in the river quite often, So,
are there any other sightings? Has anybody else around there had them? Like, is there an event that happened that caused a rift? Or
remember I mentioned the thing that triggered me was a local sighting.
Yeah, that's right. You said in December.
Yeah, and there is more sightings on the BBR
Yeah,
reports.
you went out and tried to have an encounter, and yeah, that's what
Well,
happened.
no, I went out just with a recorder. It's in my bedroom, just an old recorder, basically. Just like thinking I'd not get nothing, but yeah, I did each time. It got handled, and
Did you do any gifting or anything? Give them food, peanut butter?
yeah. So what I did is I was photographing their structures and stuff like that, trying to catch them on camera. So each time I left the recorder, I left food and stuff. First time, for example, was some out of date slice of beef sandwiches. You know, just whatever, food for food, in my opinion. Never,
You know, a homeless person outside of doing that.
Yeah, that's how I was
yeah.
looking at it. Like, you know, the wild man will be great for anything, but that wasn't the case. You know, very often not even bother touching the food. Certainly not short of the ability to get food. I have over the period of time I've gifted loads of times and seen finger scoops out of peanut butter jars and certain items, you know, where food have gone. A lot of the time they've been left. Apparently it's their policy that they don't take food just in case, like, we've laced it with something, you know what I mean, like poison.
Now,
Or, you know,
is this the mine on here?
that's a quarry. That's a quarry.
A quarry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's incredible. That's almost like, as far as like urbanized area, that's like the perfect storm.
yeah.
You're right there, and that's, oh my gosh. And look how countryside that is. Reminds me of my hometown.
Yeah. So I describe this place. I have to be careful. I'm feeling a bit uneasy now, to be honest. But no, not from you. It's nothing you're doing. Just as I say, I still get harassed to this day. You know what I mean? Like, anyway. Yeah. So basically, the whole area. So I'll just mention a couple more things. So before I even knew that they was in the area, I used to, if I was awake late at night, say like 2 a.m. or something like that, sat in my apartment front room, and I'd hear all this barking going off. Literally hundreds of barks, bark, 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 bark. And I think, who on earth is letting their dogs bark at this time? You know, Harding Yard, that's ridiculous. You know, 200 barks. So I learned later that was them. So basically, and I seen a black shadow figure crossing the road one time before I even knew they was in the area. And so once that they started harassing me, and even when I was recording them, I was so this is how I felt when listening back to the recordings. They were long-winded, boring recordings of a whole night's audio. But yeah, it was, rather than it being a quiet night's audio, the recorder was getting handled. There was all odd yells, monkey noises, animalistic sounds, fake owl calls or barks, getting handled again, footsteps, tree knocks, all this sort of phenomenon the whole night through. And I even strongly believe, based on the fact that it was placed near a river, and yet at some periods of the audio, after it being handled and stuff, it sounded like it was literally in the river, the recorder. So the Bigfoot was handling it and taking it with him. As stupid as that sounds, I don't talk crap, you know what I mean? So that's what the audio presented. And so rather than me being, I'd pick it up basically the next morning, creepy morning before work on my e-bike or in my van, and I'd listen back to it with earphones on. Well, it was on a little speaker laid on my bed, and I'd be like fascinated with it, and I'd be like, wow, you know, this is amazing. What on earth's going off here? This is crazy. Like, my dad listened, my stepmom, and he was like, this is all very odd. This is crazy. What's going on for you? You know, the same. But it was just like a little private listening. You know, it wasn't that I was trying to expose these beings or anything like that. And I actually became quite fond of them. You know, as I sort of got names like Big Man, Gobby, like one that was sort of yelling all the time, the Monkey Boy. There wouldn't have been more than them 3 characters, but that's the 3 names that I come up with. And I was quite fond of them. And thought I was building some sort of rapport with him. But yeah, I think looking back, when I listen back to the audio now, which I can't do because it traumatizes me actually, especially the harassment audio, I missed 101 warning signs, you know, like angry frequencies. I could never figure out why the train would go past, little 2-cab train, and yet, like, after the train, which were only every 2 hours, I'd hear massive, like, frequencies, like, it sounded like a big juggernaut train going through all the time. With the Bigfoot making them low frequency, you know, they say they could sound like a train, or they can sound like a jet engine also, doing them frequencies to cover up the noise that was happening in the background. So I became quite fond of these characters and thought I was building up some sort of rapport, but it turns out all I was doing was angering them. One thing I have sort of said to them, you know, but by mind speaking directly and stuff, is that I wish they'd just stamped on that recorder or just chucked it in the river, and it would never would have gone to the point, escalated to the point that it did.
Oh yeah.
But they never did that. They sort of performed for it and let me collect it back, allowing me to be like fascinated, intrigued, and thirsty for more. You know, each time I was wanting to know exactly what I was recording. You know, I knew what I was recording. I've seen the one on the canal. So I have had a lot of sightings as well. If you'd like me to talk about any of them, I can.
Oh yeah, you can talk about the what they look like up in person. I'm always interested in that one. If they smell.
So yeah, the first one I had was on the train line. I was placing a recorder behind a fence post. Went back on my e-bike, thought, I need to count what post I put it behind. Turned around, pushed my e-bike back up to count the post, forgot to count the posts, so I turned back around again and thought, I forgot to count the posts. So I confused myself, never mind the being. So as I turned around again, I turned the light off on my bike, got my torch out, shone it to the right, shone it to the left on the train line, seeing a body mass peeking out from a tree, going back in, then peeking back out again. So I had it pinned in my torch light. So I just dropped some grapes. That was the first one. Very physical being, nothing to write home about. And then the great majority of my other sightings have been this black shadow form, where I've seen a black head retreating off the cliff. I've seen 3 characters on the canal path when I was placing a game camera to strap it to the tree. One time one was very tall, one was very chunky, and the other one was a different shape again, very different body sizes, 3 of them. And then the first time I've mentioned this in any of my interviews, because it's only when I've laid and thought about it that I've figured they were then, because when I next looked down the path a little shortly after, they'd just gone, disappeared out of there, whereas people, they're bigger than people anyway. Then on the hillside, when I had my stepbrother around trying to gather evidence, where he was saying he was airing them in the river and all stuff like this, when we pulled up, we had a young monkey laughing at us, and basically he was shining a laser on the hillside, and a big chunky one stood out there like a big massive black one, and it was like shining it in its eyes. So there was that one. And then when I was travelling back to Matlock after visiting my stepbrother in Chesterfield, and I was driving along in my car, and I seen a weird flash behind my my mirror. It was my door mirror, and I seen a cone head and shoulders like that from there upwards, passing across the back of a big grey farm sign, which was about 3 foot wide. And I actually pulled up at that sign later, and my head just touched the bottom of it, so that would have been about 8.5 foot tall. And it walked across the sign, cone head, big black cone head, and then an orb appeared in its hand, sort of thing. That's what got my attention. Otherwise, I wouldn't even looked in my mirror. And I've seen a young monkey running across the road on all fours, about 18 inches off the road, running into the hedgerow where another one was. Seen self-illuminating eyes looking back at me numerous times. And my most epic sighting was when I was on Ownbrook Valley Park, and I was out on my e-bike. And so this is when I was living in the roof apartment, which I'll start covering that aspect. That's actually the most intriguing segment of this. So yeah, I was out on my e-bike on Ownbrook Valley Park, getting a breather from the harassment. And I was riding down the hillside a little bit. This was in the daytime, and in the field opposite, I seen a massive, grey coloured being, like a dog the size of a donkey. It looked like, but I didn't see its head. It was running all fours with its head down, shifting as fast as they talk about and moving. You know what I mean? Like proper, you couldn't out-pedal it, for example, even going downhill. So yeah, that was a dog the size of a donkey. I don't know it was a dog because I couldn't see its face, but that's just the thing what imprinted in my mind. So yeah, it's surprising how common these beings are. I started calling that area Cryptid Central. So anyway, so I got driven out of that home, and I luckily had enough money to put a bond down and stuff like that. I managed to get my family on board, but still not fully believing me what was going off. So not that they thought I was a liar, they just thought I was having some sort of episode or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's understandable. I was going to ask what your family thought of it.
Yeah.
If you had any.
One night, for example, in Matlock, so they'd been harassing me, and I'd been sat on my settee trying to mind speak, say sorry. And I'd try, and it seemed like it were calm, and that being were calm, and everything felt calmer. Then I'd go to lie down in my hallway, and I used to tie a sock round my head, and have earplugs in and stuff like that, and with a recorder going, which I'd be talking into it, and it started harassing me and scaring me. So I have to get up again. So I tried saying sorry again, and basically, and it calmed down. I go and lie down again. Then it would kick off again. So I'd have to get up again, and they kept me up all night that night. And the next morning, I felt voodooed to high heaven. You know what I mean? They'd been blasting me with infrasound, basically. And so I went out onto a balcony, and I started getting it all that, you know what I mean, mouth colouring in black and blue and saying this and say. So then they started turning around and heading back towards my apartment. So in my recorder, I was saying, right, Dad, do you think this is real? You wait now. They're coming back now. They'll be banging on my windows. But I ended up like chickening it because I'd been infrasounded. I was scared. So I turned on the lights on instead. Anyway, long story short, they sort of left me. Although I noticed that this interference was happening in the daytime as well. They left me, and basically my sisters came up the next night to catch some evidence of it. And as soon as darkness dropped, this fake owl calling and squeaking, like squeaky boy, started heading towards my apartment. I laid down in the hallway. I could hear him coming. And like my sisters weren't taking it as serious as what they should. I'm like, I could hear an owl then. Like, it's an owl. I'm like, oh, for F's sake, just open your mind to the possibility that it's maybe not an owl. Do you know what I mean? Sort of thing. And they couldn't sort of do that. And all of a sudden I started feeling like scared for my sisters that I was involving them in something where they didn't need to be, because these beings were coming for me with like determination. You know, as soon as darkness dropped, they were heading right to me to carry on what they'd left, you know what I mean, night before, morning before. So yes, I started feeling a bit like scared and that we weren't even safe. So I got my sister to ring police. So police come out that night actually, and I'm a straight talkers. They came out, and anyway, so I made sure the corridors were clear. I went out to my apartment, and I got outside, and neighbours were like, "What's the matter? You all right?" And I'm like, "No, my echo. I'm getting harassed by," and I just said the word because I'm that much of a straight talker. It's you know what I mean, to my own detriment sometimes. But said that. Then next minute, interestingly, all sticks were dropping off of this cliffside, and they were like, "Hey, there's a person up there." So what I was interpreting was correct. You know, if there was one literally 20 foot away up there, just on cliff, could have dropped down easy peasy like that and done whatever. Do you know what I mean, really? So I started like shouting to my sisters to come down, and the next minute police pulled up. And interestingly as well, these beings didn't even back away. You know, when police were there, they didn't care. They were still doing fake owl calls and stuff like that out in car park. You know, they weren't like intimidated and shied away from that situation because they don't exist, do they? You know what I mean? Especially UK. I mean, like, they don't exist. So doctor come out, and she was talking to me, and I said I'm getting harassed, and told them straight, and so that's why doctor come out, because I told them straight. And basically they were saying like, right, well you're going to go away, and then I'm like, no, I'm not. Well, there's nothing the matter with me. I'm not going away anywhere. Well, I've been getting harassed. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm going away? There's nothing. And I sort of outdid the doctor, because there was nothing wrong with my head. You know, I challenged her like, well, okay, give me reasons why then. And she told me reasons. So I'm like, well, that reason's not flawed because this, that, you know, and like made a good case for not even going anywhere. It's like, you're telling me that, you know, excuse me, you've not even been here. So how can you even tell me that this harassment's not been happening? You've not even been here. You know, that's so insulting and like flawed in its own right. So we went through this process. Anyway, 2 ambulance guys come out, and it was actually them when they was in my front room when this fake owl called and going off in car park outside, and it was them what commented saying, "That's a weird owl," you know, after hearing it. And I was like, "Yeah, thank you." I was like, "Because it's not a bloody owl," you know.
Wow.
And anyway,
so they just kept going once they were there.
Yeah, not bothering crap. You know, they backed away a little bit. Not
you got
that
the
much,
gangsters of the Sasquatch world, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so that's, I'm glad you touched on that, because that's another way that I describe them as the ultimate enemy. Like, you don't want these beings against you. Like, they worked as a team, never alone, with a black heart. They didn't care one bit whether I was suffering. You know, I nearly took my life of all this. I'll get to all that later down the path. But they didn't care one bit, not one bit of empathy. You know what I mean? Can't communicate with them, not interested in communication. Gifting didn't work, saying sorry didn't work, you know, nothing worked. And they worked in numbers. You know, it was like an SAS squad team, basically, all harassing me. And so if you just picture like a massively powerful Bigfoot in your mind now, I literally had a team. I'm not saying there was all massively powerful Bigfoot cryptids, of all varieties. I had a team of them always against me in Matlock, and that's what made it so horrific and, made it so I had to leave my home. Matlock was the worst for the infrasound and the bombardment. It was terrible, really bad. Yeah. So, so anyway, the ambulance man, and I'd sort of took toweling by that point. It was getting to like 4 a.m. and I was like, you know what? Rather than you all going right now and leave me on my own with these, take me away, I'll go. And so I went in ambulance and I got to hospital and in hospital. And first person I spoke to, I just told it straight again. But then I started thinking, saying, hold on, I've got to be tactful here what words I use. And so I said, all right, okay, I'll put it this way. I've been getting harassed. I don't know what bikes, I've not seen them, but certainly been getting harassed and all this has been going off. I mean, that's not imaginary. I did that. And they let me out the next morning because they could tell there was nothing wrong with my mind, I was thinking logically, etc. So, of course, I'd get back home only to be infrasounded. And this was happening in the daytime as well. So just to touch on as well, I started noticing the phenomenon where I'd go out to try and escape this, whether it be driving my car. So say it got to 2 a.m. and literally my head is being blown up by all this. I mean, and like I just need to get out of my apartment, which weren't ideal, especially at 2 a.m. You don't want to go out, especially because your head's like walloped, side slapped from all infrasounding. Do you know what I mean? Your head's not with it. I jump in my car, go for a drive, pull up in some secluded space, sat in my car, bit audio recorder going, probably talking to that again. That's sort of comfort I found because I dealt with all this on my own. It was always just me against them. And basically, I noticed this like odd frequency incoming, basically to come to me. Do you know what I mean? I'll give you an example of that. I left my apartment in Matlock. I had my stepbrother's key to his flat in Darley-Dale. I got there. I weren't even there 5 minutes and I could hear little fake owl calls on the outside. And I'm like, what? And so I'm laid on his floor then, scared. I'm like, well, if I'm laid here scared and sensing the presence outside, I might as well be at home scared. So I go straight back home. So that's when I started getting a bit of insight into this tagging phenomenon, which is very
How far
real.
away? How far away was your brother?
Okay, about 3 miles. So
3 miles. Okay.
There's Matlock, then there's Darley-Dale. Further up that train line, basically that same train line. Riverdale was just the same river goes past it, and again a very hot spot.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, so I started fearing for my life towards the end in Matlock. It was getting that intense where something was going to snap, most likely my neck. It was getting that intense because they was like torturing me that much that I couldn't stop my mouth, saying, F you, screw, all the obscenities, what you could. They blew my head up, basically. And of course, that made it worse, and they'd be trying to get me more, and I'd be reacting more, and just a bad situation. And like really, brought me down at times, panic attacks, like depression, impending doom, like head fog, all these things what I was suffering. Tag phenomenon where we're going out and like no escape, there were literally no escape. So just before I moved from that lot, again, it loads of mouth saying, F you, screw you, I'm gone, you scumbags, what you've done to me, you evil, get lost, all these words. And I packed my home up and got my family and they helped me move 12 miles away to Chesterfield, which is even more, it's more of a town than Matlock by quite a bit, a lot more urban. So this is where it got very interesting, shall we say. So I thought it was all behind me and over with, only to find that basically with only 2 days passing, something like that, I was hearing these odd frequencies again. So I just mentioned about Matlock as well. So Matlock, these frequencies was really horrific, but they also made every other sound horrific. Like every car sounded evil. If a lorry come down, you're literally like holding your head like, oh, it sounds so evil. It like changed other sounds. You know what I mean? In the atmosphere. And so I started noticing all these sounds again in my next place, and I've moved into a roof apartment. So if you imagine, I'm living in the roof now of an apartment, just me in the roof, an apartment below, trees opposite, and I started seeing these orbs out my window, but not thinking too much of it, and basically,
how big were the orbs? You said orbs.
Yeah, so I
How
started.
big
So
were they?
Matlock, I started seeing loads of orbs on the hillside in Matlock. I've actually filmed one in Darley-Dale the other week. There was more like reddy coloured orbs because we was like always debating whether there was the street lights, but they aren't the street lights. Orb phenomenon going off, you know.
Was it like a
I'm not
basketball
sure.
or just like a flashlight? Like the size of the orb?
Hard to tell because it was on the hillside, but
Mhm.
yeah, so it's hard to judge the scale. So I couldn't really give you a size. You know, they look like the street light, if you like.
Okay.
Size.
Okay, I
Do you know
got
what I
you.
mean? That's
Yeah.
Um,
That tells it.
yeah, okay. So and also I moved into this roof apartment, and basically I was like watching back my last night's game camera, which I'll have to send you a link to some of that because it's a 20 megapixel game camera. Yeah, it's blurred to high heaven, and it shouldn't be, but actually in the tree opposite there's a Sasquatch and a green black-eyed alien-looking character. 3 characters joined the bombardment later on in the night. I'll send you a link to that little video clip after we've spoken stuff anyway. It's very blurred, shouldn't be. That's one of the factors. Do you know what I mean? Like 20 megapixel, but it looks like 2.
Yeah.
You know,
That should be clear as day.
yeah, and these beings have got the ability to bombard electronics and every recorder I ever placed. They found, you know, I was never one. There was always one step ahead of me. Everything I did in that regard, even covering the infrared lights on that camera and stuff. Yeah. So at this roof apartment, I'd be sat there just watching back the last night's game camera and the second to last night's game camera and audio recordings what I had. And basically all this banging started happening on the roof above me. Bearing in mind I'm in the actual roof segment. You know what I mean? So bang, bang, bang above me, bang, bang. Then thinking we were getting banged on, then bang, bang, then walking, little feet, and then big feet, then bang, then frequencies. And I'm like, what's going off here? What's going off? And I like studied the building outside. All there was is like one chimney, nothing to bang. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of it were like footstep bangs, like directly above me. And it turns out basically they turned up at this next home, and basically I couldn't make sense of that. So at this point, I was like, because it was the same in the daytime, all these frequencies happening, this interference happening again, the effects happening to me again. So I just mentioned as well, when I was in Matlock, if I left my home in Matlock and went for like a countryside walk, for example, or a ride on my e-bike, the effects would start subsiding and my mind would start coming back to normal. Do you know what I mean? Whenever I was not at my home. So anyway, this roof apartment, I started getting all these effects again, the frequencies, the orbs, all the, like 200 bangs some nights directly above me. And basically, I was like, what's going off here? And even in the daytime, this was because at this point, coronavirus was still happening. And it was during a furlough thing where people were furloughed in the UK, where certain people got sent back from work, still got the pay. I was still working, but just on emergency jobs only. Mm-hmm. And basically, I couldn't make sense of this. It defied all logic. And actually, at that point, thought, am I going a bit mad here? You know what I mean? Like, this is impossible, because for that to be happening, it's invisible. Something's invisible doing that, you know. But yeah, I knew that it was something very much happening, but I couldn't make sense of it. You know, why would I be able to? It defies all logic. These beings are big, chunky, air-covered beings, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? That was my understanding. Mm-hmm. So just to point that out again, so it went on for 3 months in Matlock. And during all 3 months of harassment, never for 1 minute did I suspect a supernatural aspect to them. I just didn't. So if people out there, Bigfoot hunters and stuff, think like, oh yeah, flesh and blood, that's perfectly understandable. Because I was harassed for 3 months and I still thought flesh and blood and nothing else. I could never catch them on my camera on cliff. There's something else I'll get to about cameras on that cliff as well, but I'll move on. So for 3 months they harassed me in Matlock and I didn't see any of the supernatural aspect. It was only when I moved to Chesterfield and I was like, what on earth? This is next level crazy wombat stuff. What's going off here? So again, I start playing catch up, going on the internet, Bigfoot, supernatural, Bigfoot, invisible, Bigfoot attack, Bigfoot, all these things. And all this information coming up again, people seeing them, you know, all this cloak form, all that sort of thing. I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable now talking about it all myself because, like I say, I still get harassed even right now. So it's making me a bit like higgledy-piggledy minded to what I'm comfortable talking about.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean I'm still going to say it all, but that is
okay.
people.
I'll say don't hurt yourself. for
No, it's not
podcast.
that. But if people say that I'm a bit uncomfortable, it's because I am uncomfortable at the minute,
Yeah,
because it still goes on to this day. So it's at this roof apartment where I started to totally see, it basically, for them to be able to continue to harass me and get me, they had to tap into this supernatural form and do it in that way. You know what I mean? Like a roof apartment in the daytime, that made no sense and stuff. So basically, that's what they tapped into, where I had this the roof apartment was horrific as well, like satanic evil beast from hell that was on my roof all the time, blowing infrasound down my flue, basically affecting all my apartment. There's nowhere safe in my apartment, just like Matlock, nowhere safe, nowhere where you was free from the effects. Even
now, how far away was this new apartment?
At 12 miles. Yeah,
12 miles.
12. Yeah, and we're talking more and more urban now. So we're getting more and more urban. They do interlink by countryside links and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. These beings can get to you wherever they want. It turns out I'll get more into that as I go on to my next about. So basically I had this beast from hell on my case, like satanically evil. It just basically infrasounded me, chuntering all the time. Always brought a young one with it, chasing me from room to room, torturing me. There's no other word, just torturing me. One-sided fight, horrific. I tried all sorts. I tried like ear bungs in my ears, with ear defenders on my ears, with bags of insulation on them. I've got the actual things in there in my cupboard still. You know what I mean? Like I tried like blooming gifting. I tried saying sorry. I tried playing an apology all the time. I tried playing positivity statements. I tried playing prayers. I tried playing my own prayers. I tried playing mantras, which wound it up, and prayers seemed to wind it up, but didn't get rid. And this being was delighting in like torturing me literally from the minute I got in from work, interestingly, and I'd start seeing all these odd flashes in the environment. So I'd be in my home and I'd see odd flash outside, flash. What that phenomenon were, I don't know, but odd flashes. And basically I'd get back from work and within 10 minutes, boom, the beast had landed, boom, all atmosphere changed, and it would start affecting me. And basically I'd be putting earplugs in, I'd have fans going because it was summertime, and you can imagine the hell that it was. You know what I mean? Like when you block out your ears, for one thing, it puts an intensity in your head. Yeah, I'd got this chuntering evil being, like just literally delighting in like torturing me. There's no other way of torturing me. And yet I'd be laid in my bed and I'd have pillars on my head. You could still hear it because of the low frequency aspect, you could still hear it, and it'd be banging above me and stuff like that. And I'd try like running into my front room. I made a little bed like behind the tea. I'd lay down there all quiet, like quiet as a mouse. It'd not be long before little footsteps above me. Then a big beast, it'd chase me from room to room. And there were nowhere in that apartment where I was safe. I started sleeping in my own way again. I bought like a panic alarm. I'd always have recorders going as a deterrent and stuff like that. Just a hellish ordeal. So I'd never wish what I went through. It's still bad now. It left me alone for ages. It still happens nowadays. But them two places was by far the worst. I'd never wish what I went through on anybody. It was like, it was at the roof apartment. So it was 3 months driving me out the first home, 4 months in the roof apartment, and I'd paid for a lot longer, like contract, when you rent somewhere. But I didn't care. I got a loan, and I had to get out of there, paid up the landlord, and I was like, I'm off. And basically, I had to get a loan and move from there. And it was at that point, 4 months it went on for there. And my sister started believing me then. For example, a little teepee appeared in the woods opposite me. And we pulled up one time when she was dropping me off. And basically, kids were like, hey, mister, we think there's a demon in them woods. Like, oh, why'd you say that? Someone keeps scaring us out. Little things started, and my sister was seeing these flashes when she visited. Little things started like piecing together for my sister, where she started believing me, and she helped me out no end, bless her. So, so it was at this point where I'd had enough, because if I just summarise it, I'd got like a being what was not just one being, I'd got a team, a being what was so much more powerful than me, faster than me, It could basically, I couldn't communicate with it. It wasn't interested in being bribed, taking money. I couldn't get out from the police. I couldn't hardly. It was more hassle than it was worth trying to like tell family what I was going through, because it was just like such a talk, such a, you know, well, what have you been up to? What's going on? Why are you looking in a bad way? Oh, well, this, that, this, that, this. Just more of an headache, and it was worth. What was the point? Do you know what I mean? In the long run, like, you know what I mean? It was like became like, well, basically I was fighting it all on my own. Do you know what I mean? If I had somebody with me, they'd back away a little bit. They'd still harass me, but they'd back away a little bit. When they'd gone, it was straight singling me out and like basically them wanting me on my own and getting me when I was on my own. And in this roof apartment, it was really bad where, for example, if I keep my camera up to test that, like in the roof apartment, it was all distorted, pixelization, all electrical interference, and me feeling it, and just horrific. And like this tracking phenomenon was becoming very real to me then, where I was trying to escape away. Like, no word of a lie, I've escaped to hotels before, and they've turned up there in Chesterfield town centre. No word of a lie. I've not told this on any of my other interviews because it just sounds so crazy and unbelievable. But I'm talking about like a travel lodge, like 5-story hotel. I pulled up in the car park, and it just coincidence. I don't think that one was there waiting for me because it wouldn't have known. But I heard one chuntering in the hedgerow in the corner of the car park. Just, you know, and I was like, oh, that's funny.
Also, it was making the Sierra sounds.
Yeah, the old chunter, can't help but chunter, always chuntering. You know, talk about chuntering. Yeah, pulled up in car park. Anyway, booked an hotel room. They gave me top floor. We're talking probably 6 stories high now. And I had one of the worst nights of my life in that hotel. I left at 6 a.m. and I felt like I'd been in a tumble dryer all night. One on the roof. We're talking Chesterfield Town Centre now. Invisible forms. Don't matter if you're in the town centre. They can get to you. Do you know what I mean? That's the abilities these beings have got. This cloaked form is a very real phenomenon. This invisible enemy. You know what I mean? Invisibility factor. Dogs can see them. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, there was always dogs going off in the neighbourhood. But this hotel room, long story short, I had a really bad night then. I was begging at the window, just leave me alone. And so yeah, I peed them off, I angered them, and I deserved some of what I got. But on the flip side, I'm not a bad person. I didn't mean them no bad intentions, stuff like that. And I said sorry so many times. I bet I said sorry 1,000 times. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Waste of words, waste of effort, not bothered. You know what I mean? So like black-hearted and cold. Yeah, so these beings can like get to you wherever you are. And they started like this tagging phenomenon become very real, where wherever I went, it'd be still following me and applying the pressure on me still. You know, if I escaped to my sister's, I'd have to lay at the bottom of her bed. I'd be banging up on her roof. I'd have like 3 pillars on my head, just compressing my head, just to get some relief from the torment. Do you know what I mean? That's how intense this harassment, where evil, so evil. Like, and Infrasound is a low-down, dirty scumbag weapon. You can't defend against it. You can't aim it properly. You can't understand what's going off. It has massive effects on you. You know what I mean? It's like a horrible weapon. And yet, again, this might sound quite far-fetched, quite up there, out there, whatever, but the amount of hours what has been devoted to harassing me, 3 months in Matlock, 4 months at the roof apartment, 3 months in Matlock was never one being. It was always a team. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes, yeah, maybe one being left during daytime, just topping me up with that infrasounding. But basically, on this last night's game camera, there's 1, 2 opposite, 3 in top corner, what join later, another one, and there's also one balcony, a proper team. Do you know what I mean? Like at me. So you weigh that out. If they turn up at tea time and they're there till next morning and beyond, say that's 17 hours, times by 3 beings, you've got 60 hours there. Do you know what I mean? In one little sitting. Yeah, 3 months to Matlock, 4 months at this roof apartment. I am not kidding you when I say about 1,000, 1,200, even 1,500 hours has been devoted to harassing me, tormenting me. And I think that's quite, you know what I mean, satanically disproportionate. And it still goes on to this day. And it's 3 years since March 2020. We're in 23 now, March. 3 years since he first turned on me. Been happening at this address now, probably 6 weeks, 7 weeks, more.
So you're a I was going to ask you earlier, and you answered the question without me asking, but you believe they are of the supernatural teleportation,
Definitely, I've been run upon in the invisible form.
the portals.
Yeah. Another sighting I had was when I was near Tansley Ponds on my e-bike going to my dad's, and I was giving it all that, and basically I had this aeroplane frequency like coming towards me. So I phoned my stepmom to say, if anything happens to me, just let you know, there's one incoming. That's what's happened to me. And long story short, I seen orbs peeping around a tree. I actually videoed that, but I deleted the video. Some stupid reason. Orbs peeping around a tree at me. The next minute, a Bigfoot running on the hillside to the right hand side of me, and it was getting intense at that point. Where that was the sort of end period of the roof apartment days, the 4 months at the roof apartment, where I felt like my life was under threat again, because I sort of got trapped in this like against a wall and a hard place where they were tormenting me so much, and my mouth was giving it all that because they were driving me out of my mind. Do you know what I mean? And it was sort of an effect of what they were doing to me. You know, like for this place where I am now, because I moved again and still turned up here. So I bit my tongue for ages here. You know, didn't even think about thought, even tried building a positive relationship. But, you know, evil. So evil. So evil. I've seen the red eyes looking at me. I've seen one on the train line when I was sat on a bench, filming on my phone, waiting for one to run up on me because I knew that I was peeing off. And I've seen one up a field, 2/3 away up a field, a set of red eyes looking down at me, and then these two beings what were opposite my place in Matlock before it started, and the two Bigfoot what were swaying like that, rather than being stood still, they were swaying left to right, and they had red eyes. I've seen the self-illuminating eyes no end of times, and I've been. So as I say, at this roof apartment, the one that was harassing me there was. So when I'd open my roof apartment window, I'd see self-illuminating eyes looking back at me in the trees sometimes. I'd go out on my e-bike. So I'm blurting all this out and I'm talking fast. So I apologise to your viewers that I am doing that. The reason I'm doing that is because there's so much up here to sort of communicate across. It's, you know, so much. And I've lived it and I lived it and breathed it for 7 hellish months. So I'd go out on my e-bike and I'd heard like a little a character scurrying away back into the tree line. And I was like, aha, that's one of them beat little. And there was a little teepee, young one on the lookout for me going and coming back from my property. So another time I snuck back down the road and I went down into these woods with my e-bike kicking off. And there was 2 sets of luminous eyes looking back at me. And they'd managed to make their way into the like stream, stroke brook, behind all the fawns and stuff, like looking back at me. And I was like, look, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. I've had enough of this. And I tried gifting, going down into the dark in them exact same trees and leaving gifts and saying, look, please, just leave me alone. I never meant you any harm, you know, and all this sort of thing, but never made any difference. Yeah, very, very evil.
Did you ever try to like go camping in a tent and try to trap them out there or get closer to them?
No,
like go on the offensive.
No, I never. But I describe like some of what I did as like chasing them down on my e-bike. I described as like on the offensive. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was doing things what other people weren't doing and wouldn't be doing certainly. But I was never one for camping, if you like. So
it's too bad you can't have a gun. That would have been my first thought, but I guess it doesn't really work over here either.
Well, that's the other thing in the UK. So again, I've described, and I can't communicate this. Just be careful with these beings because if you do,
I'm not going near them.
Yeah, especially in the UK and stuff, like you're in for a rude awakening. Like literally, the beast from hell. I mean, like predators got nothing on these beings. They can literally be harassing you in the daytime up on a roof, in the daylight hours, infrasounding you, banging about. Yeah, all dogs barking, yet people not able to see them and realise what's going on. Do you know what I mean? Like the ultimate enemy, and they can track you. So you leave your home to try and get a breather because your head's being literally at times it felt like I'd been vibrated in my bed. You know, the infrasound got bombardment that much, and I'd literally leave my home for a breather, yet only to find out that you've no escape. You're tagged. You're a marked man. For example, I did an experiment only about 3 weeks ago where I went into their woods for the first time in about 18 months not into their woods. I stayed in my car. I'm not that brave. It was dark. I stayed in my car, pulled up at their woods, had my audio recorder going, saying, right, we'll see how long it takes before a presence is about, tagged phenomenon. 15 minutes, one right left-hand side, incoming up right-hand side. So I drove somewhere else into Darlydale. Turns out I went into an hotspot straight away. The orb phenomenon going off. And it was 25 minutes, and there was a massive one on the right-hand side, about 40 foot away, and they were affecting me while I sat in my car. I heard the barks in the distance incoming, and 25 minutes there was a beast, and I mean a beast, like it sounded like a beast, and he was chunked into another one, so it was more than him. So the tag phenomenon is a very real phenomenon, and it's a nightmare. They'll pressure you up that much, and you've no escape. Even in my own home, the Matlock, I had no escape. I put a full roll off insulation up against my window. I put air mattresses, old TV boxes, everything up against my window and stuff. Certainly helped, but didn't stop it. My next home, roof apartment, turns out I couldn't do that because it were angled walls and windows. I tried with plasterboard and insulation and stuff, but it had just rough with the fabric of the building. It's that powerful, this infrasound. And at this place, even, it's to a lesser degree here, and as I said, it has a different approach, but, there's no escape from this infrasound. And when
that's a very similar. There's a gentleman I interviewed. He's pretty popular in Long Island, Bigfoot from New York.
Yeah.
And he told me that if he doesn't go to the woods every few days and have an experience, they come to his backyard.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think it's kind of a similar situation. I don't think it's hostile. I think he just hostile like yours, but he just has like rocks and stuff thrown against his window.
Right. Yeah.
Sees him in his yard.
I've never had anything thrown, but mine has been like certainly the most evil intent.
Yeah.
It's been the most evil harassment, like so evil. It's really shocked me. Like, just to put it in perspective to your viewers, like I got the impression in my head, I've mentioned them 3 words: evil, powerful, merciless. They proved true all the way through this, and stronger than a demon. Like, I've watched like a load of YouTube ghost hunting, like, oh yeah, demon harassment, demons follow me home, encountering a demon and so and so. Not a patch on the harassment what these beings can give you. Not a patch, not even do you know what I mean? Like, I just swap the harassment that I get even currently, and it's nowhere near as bad here as the last 2 abodes. Send me a demon any day, I'll part exchange. Do you know what I mean? Literally, it's the ultimate enemy, the beast from hell.
Have you ever heard of Havana syndrome?
What, sorry?
Havana syndrome?
No.
It happened in Havana, Cuba. That's why they call it that. But it was like a weapon that was designed and shot at the U.S. dignitaries, and it caused them to be nauseous and their head to swim. And it was real similar to that, minus the Bigfoot sightings. But they didn't have the monkeys. But when you said that, I was like, it sounds like extreme Havana syndrome.
Yeah, I know there's been experiments on the conducted with Infrasound where they fired at people in a stadium, and they could single out one person or something and made him feel nauseous and stuff like that. But it can even go, because there's another phenomenon with infrasound. There's the prolonged infrasounding, like what I've had no end of, countless hours, torturous. There's also the zapping. I've been zapped about 3 times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just got it. Well, so this was the crunch point for me, where I was at this roof apartment. So it had been ongoing for 7 months, and I just had enough. I was fed up of fighting, one-sided fight where it was just one side, all incoming to me. Do you know what I mean? Nothing I could do in retaliation. I mean, what could I do? I tried, but nothing. I had like disco lights in my window to get eyes looking up. Made no difference. Recorders going cam, you know what I mean? All this sort of stuff made no difference. Just a one-sided fight. Bullying's a word, yeah. You know what I mean? Bullying. Yeah. Intense, like being bullied by. You can imagine, like, so again, just feel this is just to picture a big, massive, beastie Bigfoot, and then a team. I'm not saying there was all beastie Bigfoots, but there were certainly 2 I was looking at. There were 3 on the canal, fully grown adults. Being bullied by a team of them beings ain't fun, especially when you factor in that woo factor, that supernatural aspect, that tagging phenomenon. And basically, when I went to the roof apartment, I just had enough. I was just like contemplating how I was going to put myself out of my misery, take my own life. I'm not that way inclined at all, but the torment went on that long, and it was to that much of an intense level, my quality of life had become that poor. I was a case man, and I just wanted to be dead. I just wanted out. I was just like, I've had enough of this. I just had enough. I'd had enough in Matlock. Yeah, you could top me up with another 4 months. You know, in Matlock, I couldn't have took. Remember after 2 nights, I went saying, Scott Carpenter, I feel like I'm near a mental breakdown here, nervous breakdown or whatever I worded it. I think it was nervous breakdown. Feel like I'm halfway towards a nervous breakdown. That's the wording I used. After 2 nights, yeah, I enjoyed 4 months. So you can imagine, you know what I mean? Like the frame of mind after such a, like they just punished me so much. Punishment. Nothing I'd do would make any difference. Playing prayers, it made no difference. People saying they won it in the name of Jesus. No, they didn't for me. It just wound it up. If anything, mantras, they just wound it up. You know, like playing like Indian god mantras, like remove evil spirits and stuff. They wound it up. So again, just got this like ultimate enemy. What you don't want on your back. You know what I mean? So my main aim of doing this, because there's no glory in doing these interviews. You know what I mean? All you look like is like you make them look like a fool or whatever. 30% of people won't believe you or whatever.
Yeah.
There's no glory in it, is there? So my intention for just doing these interviews just to warn others, just to tell people just to be careful, because you know what I mean, these beings are very real. They're out there. They say that they can't be in the UK. Well, you bet they are, thriving. So anyway, so they're out there, and
I
they're
was
not
shocked at how many were in the UK.
Yeah,
I was shocked at how many UK experiences there were.
Yeah, but don't forget, we're doing our history, probably more so than many other countries. You know, the UK, we've got the Woodrose, the Wild Man, the Green Man, and they're all, you know, names for our Bigfoot, if you like. So, yeah, in our history, as is the werewolf, you know, Dogman character. So, and actually, I've done research on into this area where I am. Interestingly, all the ley lines of the country pass through where I live. I don't know whether that's relevant, but anyway, when I've researched like dogman, I watched a video on the cryptids of the UK, and it talked about a dogman found in the mines of Derbyshire, and so I've followed that a bit further, and apparently the second most likely place in the whole of the UK you're likely to see a werewolf is Derbyshire. So makes me contemplate it was Bigfoot, what I've seen, what this other sighting was that got me to act, etc. But it does make me wonder, with all that odd barking going off all the time, stuff like that, is it a combination? You know, just interesting how Derbyshire's the second most likely place to see a werewolf. So,
yeah, that's that definitely checks out, because you always hear about the cliche werewolves of London.
Yeah.
I mean, what if it's just Bigfoot of London?
Well, I've definitely Bigfoot beatings what have been harassing me, but it makes me wonder if it's a combination. Do you know what I mean? Attack, what? Would surprise me.
Dog Man of London.
Yeah. So I sold my e-bike when I moved into this place where I am now, and foolishly I've just bought another, and I regret buying that because that's a bad recipe. You know what I mean? Like if I go out on that with this tagging phenomenon and stuff, I'm not safe basically, because it turns out that there's evidence of them all around where I live now in Chesterfield. So I moved from this. Pardon?
Have they ever messed with the e-bike while you were on it? I mean, they can.
No, there's never interfered with that, like electronically or anything. No, no.
It just came to me. I was thinking, wow, but they could do some damage.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I mentioned earlier there's one thing that I just want to discuss. So, bear with me 1 minute. Spare me 1 minute.
Right.
Not 1 minute.
We're bearing with him 1 minute, folks. Has anybody got any questions they want to ask? He's a nice guy. I'm really enjoying this. Hope you're enjoying it. He's coming back.
So, yeah, I mentioned about like this game camera being really blurred and stuff like that.
Game camera.
So when they were asking me off this cliff in Matlock, I wanted to prove it. So I spent £600 on a Heatseek Pro infrared camera. So basically, what you're looking at there is I've just bought this attachment for my phone. So I'm not sure where the camera's on. Yeah, so like that's showing you. Oh, it's not showing up well. Let me
Oh, I can see it. I
Yeah,
can
can
tell
you
it's
see it okay? It's not showing the colours up like it should be.
yeah. It's not as. It's
Yeah,
probably the
the bottom
contrast.
half of the screen is showing the colours. That's more like it, yeah. So I bought a Heat Seek Pro, which showed all the infrared exactly like this is now. So I bought this. I'll tell you why I bought this in a minute. But I bought one of these £600. I paid for it, and I thought, right, I will prove that these beings are harassing me. So when I was getting infrasounded, I had this new £600 Heat Seek Pro camera. I jump in my second bedroom window really quick on cliff face, shine it like that, expecting it to catch a heat signature of one of these beings. And basically, this strange phenomenon occurred where 45 degrees that way and 45 degrees that way, two exact spots, when I pointed there to flush out red. I've perhaps sent you images of this, but basically that's how the camera should be able. I've just been showing you on the screen, but it wouldn't do that. It would flush out red. It would go boom, red, boom, red. And it turns out that when I pointed it directly at these two perches, it flushed out red. So that's sort of how electromagnetically capable these beings are. So that's why I've actually bought this again from Amazon. I don't know if I'm going to do it now, but
What's the brand? What brand was that?
Heat Seek Pro infrared camera. So I've just bought this one. This one clicks onto your phone. I was going to go out there and prove the amount of them out there and this tagging phenomenon, but that is a stupid thing to do. But that's why I've actually got it. And not whether I'm going to do that or not.
Have you been contacted by anybody like Doug Highcheck or anybody, the big Bigfoot guys over? Have you been contacted by like Doug Highcheck?
No. So I mentioned that you'll find me on Sasquatch Awareness Project in the comments, and basically, I went on there, and I think it's under the harassment section or the spiritual section. Supernatural section, where I'm there saying, please, I beg, anybody who helps me be blessed by Jesus, I'm really struggling here with these beings to understand what's going on. They turned up at my next home. How can this even be possible? Please contact me on Radidadida. And I had a guy from Canada contact me, Larry, who helped me, and he phoned me up actually, and at this exact time I was getting harassed and cursing these beings out, and he was like, you don't want to be angry with these beings. I was like, bloody hell, it's a bit late for that, mate. And he told me things I didn't want to hear, like them appearing in people's homes and stuff like that. So obviously that played on the mind even more. Anyway, so I had him help me, and then other than that, I found the Bigfoot community to be a weird old community.
It's a little out there.
Yeah. So I'll just get one thing off my chest, so there's a channel, the British Bigfoot Research Channel, Deborah Hatswell, and it was her whose video I acted upon. I was actually a Patreon of hers, and I thought she'd come across lovely and all that. Well, in my opinion, she's a very horrible and dangerous woman. Like, for example, she called me a hoax and a liar, and basically she's done this to numerous people, and was, where you'd expect a bit of support or whatever, it was quite the opposite. I even provided her with my lie detector test, where this proved I've not even told a single lie. Yeah, she said, oh, of course you passed that, Mr. Topless. You paid for it. The lie detector test don't work like that, does it? Do you know what I mean? This was a £400 police grade. So a really horrible woman. And I really had been on her case just saying, like, look, you shouldn't be encouraging people to go out there and, researching these beings and sending in pictures if they come across any, you shouldn't be doing it. It's so dangerous. So I'm not really got it. Well, she don't like me.
Wouldn't that lie detector, the company, that's what like employers would hire for their new employees, something like that.
Yeah,
so it's people do.
It's proper police grade, where they put all the heart and then the breathing and then the.
You don't just do it for fun on a Saturday afternoon.
No, I mean, and I paid £400 for that just to prove my integrity, and that what I'd been through was very real. And
you could lie for a lot cheaper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then why would you risk £400? You know what I mean? When who can beat a lie detector? Not me. Certainly not me. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And as I say, my golden question on that is: have I ever knowingly told a single lie about my Bigfoot experience? No, told the truth. Which you can't get more integrity than that. In my opinion. That was my golden question. And I've got a very active imagination. So when I come up with that question and discussed it with him, prior to that, my mind was racing. Have I ever told a little fib about it all? Have I? You know what I mean? And yet, no, I've always just a straight talker. And so your viewers can actually get a lot from this interview where I've suffered a lot, and yet I've seen a lot. So
I'll say this: it's very, very consistent to what other people have told me.
Yeah, it's not a boast when I say I know these beings like inside out or intensely, immensely, however you want to word it. Just like they've got me tagged, it works two ways. I'm in tune with them. When I go out there, they know I'm in their woods, and I know they're around me in their woods. Do you know what I mean? It's a two-way thing, and all these literally. I'm not exaggerating when I say 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 hours have been devoted to me. 3 months in Matlock, 4 months the next place. Let's say you get 3 characters. Let's say you get 3 characters all weekend. There's 48 hours, 3 characters. That's 150 hours there. I'm underestimating when I say 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 hours. Countless hours have been devoted to harassing me. And during all that time, I've got to see a lot. So 3 months in Matlock, I didn't even know about the woo factor, the supernatural aspect. I knew about the orb phenomenon and stuff, started to get insight of the tag phenomenon. But it's only when I moved to this roof apartment that they had to tap into all that and let me see it in order to be able to continue harassing me. And so I've got to see so much, which is not a boast. It's not a boast because I'll tell you now that it's not a boast because it's been a hellish ordeal. Do you know what I mean? I've been through hell and I wouldn't wish it on anybody. So yeah, your listeners can benefit from that and the fact that I'm a totally truthful person, you know what I mean? And I've just unfortunately got to see so much during all this intense harassment, and I'm talking it straight. So you can take my words as gospel. I'm not saying I've got everything 100% spot on, everything what I'm summarising, but do you know what I mean? Like my word's good. And so people that are out there thinking, oh, Bigfoot's only flesh and blood, why wouldn't you think that? I thought that, I think if you roll me back 4 or 5 years, it wasn't even in the UK. I didn't consider the wood bin for 1 minute. You know what I mean? Followed that channel, noticed like videos in the area, and then that one that prompted my interest. And boom, all of a sudden, not only are they in the UK, they're thriving in the UK. And then not only have they got the woo factor, they've got like mind-blowing supernatural abilities. What are, very hard to comprehend and certainly impossible to battle against. Ultimate enemy. So just be careful with these beings. In my opinion, these beings don't want bothering. And these people what are out there, like one or two groups like Bigfoot UK Research or something, and I've tried warning them, I've tried saying just be careful. There's this one guy, John, somebody who's an admin, and he's out there saying, oh yeah, look, I think I caught this on my thermal, and then there's a noise at 5 minutes 10, and I've I'll jump in comments like, look mate, not notching up to a number 4 on P and M off scale, just to let you know, and you don't want them to turn on you. But it doesn't seem to take any notice. But that's what basically my intent is, and that's just to warn others, just to be careful with these beings.
Oh yeah, it's basically the same thing as a Ouija board. It's the same hazards.
Yeah, the hitchhiker effect is definitely a real effect. Yeah. Definitely.
Well, I know you wouldn't. I know you would never do it just because of since you're kind of getting on the other side. But do you think if you took a team, like an investigator with you, you could lead them to a Bigfoot?
Oh, 100%.
Theoretically?
100%. Yeah. They'll come to me. If I was in the right frame of mind, where they've been zapping me, blasting me with Infrasound, 100%. That's why I brought this infrared thing, because I could go out there and very easily prove this tag phenomenon, as I did with the audio recorder. 15 minutes, one right left, incoming front right. Next place, 25 minutes, there was a beast zapping me. And that's why I bought this, because I could go out there. Right, so the reason I bought this is because I went out in my car. They were blowing me up at home, so I went out in my car for a drive. I went up back ways into Matlock, all down up creepy lanes, up over Stockholm where I got a bus charge, down Water Lane via Julia, which is a really creepy area anyway. And all during that car journey, it was like I was being tagged even then. I were slowing down, and I were wearing stick snapping and stuff interesting me, do you know what I mean, sort of thing. And that's when I actually seen one when I was coming back through Townsley, driving down Lamp Lane, driving in my car, look to my right, and I see a red orb going a field's distance away, going across in opposite direction to me. So it caught my eye, and I like slowed down and stopped, and it started moving along fast. And I thought, is that a jogger? But then it was like 2 a.m. So it wouldn't have been a jogger, of course it wouldn't. And then with a red light on his head, and it was one running along with like an orb on its head. So, I'm not saying I could see the outline of its figure. I couldn't. I could just see the orb moving along at head height across the field distance away, and then it just disappeared. And I was like, and started driving off again. But that's how real the tagged phenomenon is. They literally show themselves to you like in real time. It's like in real time. How that works, I have no idea. I'm driving in a car, and
it'd be just amazing if maybe you could get like an investigator that wasn't trying to exploit you, take them, trying to get like real proof, but it's hard. Those are few and far between.
Yeah, well, that's the thing as well. It's like the scenario where these beings are always one step ahead. You might think that's not like that's the move where potentially I could kind of outsmart them, where I could get multiple hits with this flushing out red or something. But
what about the putting it behind your back thing?
So that's a good thing. It works for Scott Carpenter, doesn't it? Yeah. So I've just bought this e-bike and I've been looking into that rear-facing cameras, and they do a dual cycling camera. It's £189, what I do want to buy for that reason. But
I tried that in the woods at my parents' place. We have some hunting land, and I tried that. I'm like, if I see something, I'm going to shit my pants.
Yeah.
I thought I saw one thing, but that's probably a squirrel.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, I've sort of enjoyed some. I've been run up on in the invisible. And I started mentioning one thing earlier, didn't see it through. So the crunch point for me was when they started harassing me at work. So not only was I getting harassed at home and infrasounded at home and kept up all night where I'd be exhausted, yet he didn't care, it'd be still blasting me. Then I'd have to go to work next morning, and basically they started turning up at my work and harassing me at work. So I said I've been zapped 3 times. They've all been while I've been at work, which is like being hit by an aeroplane engine frequency, like being zapped, and it affects you. And basically working in a relay, and one like infrasounding me, where it's stripping wallpaper, had to shut window, and it just, affecting me. Then I was laying concrete, and they realised where I were on that night. That daytime, sorry. And then the next day I got it, and I got blasted to high heaven. And that's when I went off work for 4 months. I was off for 4 months with stress and anxiety. So I was laying concrete, and I got run upon in the invisible, and it was blasting me with infrasound. My workmate would be going to fetch another barrel full of concrete. It'd be getting me directly, as in like close contact. Do you know what I mean? And then it jumped in tree, and getting me, and that had a massive effect on me because there weren't no barrier, and there weren't no like structure between me and the infrasound. And I started driving to Darley-Dale. I got blasted on the way there on the road near the church, and I pulled up and I just phoned my sister, and I said, I can't keep doing it, Kay. I says, they're harassing me at work now. I says, I can't. And she was like, just go off, Rob. Just go off with stress. Just go off with stress. Just do it now. And I'm like, I think I'm going to have to. Because I can't be coping with this, my own life and then at work. And I phoned my foreman, and I was like, right anxiety, and just like, I can't talk, I can't do it. I'm just going out, I'm stressed. I can't do it. I can't. And he's like, oh, calm down, Rob, calm down. What's the matter? Calm down. You know what I mean? Literally, that's how much of an effect it had. Then I phoned my workmate just to tell him, so I was 4 months, and I got whisked away to my brother's in Wakefield. Followed me there. The harassment continued a bit there, stopped after a few days. They tended to not like to continue getting me. I'm not even saying it was the same one. So according to what certain people say about these beings, what one knows, they all know. However that works, I have no idea. So when I went to Wakefield, 40 miles away, it was different ones, what were tuning into. So I got woke up about 4 a.m. with knocking on the bedroom window, my brother's. And I was laid in bed just was scared all night recording, and then the knocking happened again. So this sort of, I got hassled there, only for a brief while. So I stopped at my brother's for 4 months, thought it was all over, and moved to this place where I'm at now. And this is where I even get embarrassed talking about this bit, because where I live now, okay, I live in a town. I live on an estate about a mile away from the town centre. There's a train line probably quarter of a mile that way. And I live above a shop, in an apartment, above a shop, with an apartment above me that's got a balcony. And I still get harassed here. How does that even work? Cloaked form, invisible form. I'm in a 3-story building. The balcony's on the 3rd story. You know, how's that even work? The ability of these beings is just like, you know, supernatural to I have Nephilim DNA. You know, Scott Carpenter gets a lot of it right, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the most extreme.
It's a crazy claim. It's a crazy claim.
Yeah, I mean,
so you can imagine when I had to tell my family when I moved to this roof apartment and like they'd help me escape it all from Matlock, and yet I had to turn around to my sister and go like, they followed me here. And it's invisible now, getting me on roof. You know what I mean? Like, crazy claim. And for lie detector tests and stuff. You know, like, so, yeah, it's certainly very hard for people to understand. And for those who were victim to it, which, you know, I'd imagine there's quite a few out there, like in the UK, farmers and stuff like that, who are, you know, nowhere to turn and stuff. Basically, not brave enough to speak out or not know the avenues to speak out.
Or how many of them is undiagnosed schizophrenia or something like that?
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't know what exactly is going on.
Because that's what I was saying to my sister. And even here where I live now, only perhaps 5 nights ago, I was really affected by them. What, you know, one and another always turns up, sometimes 2. They've got different tactics here. They wait till the shop's shut. They wait till our neighbours' lights go out, then they'll start blasting me. And it's not even blasting me like now, it's like calm. And it'll probably even be tuning into what I'm doing right now. And I'll probably pay a price for this interview, to be fair. That's what I've happened on a previous one. That's why I really wanted to do this interview when I weren't getting harassed. But it's not worked out that way, but so be it. You know, whatever. But yeah, so I was laid down here, and again I started sleeping in my hallway here and as far away into my apartment as I can. And basically just the head fog where for about 3 minutes I didn't even have a single thought come in my head. Do you know what I mean? Like just thick, among, however you want to word it. No offence, I'm not meaning to use offensive words, but literally vacated my mind. Do you know what I mean? That like affected by it. Head fog, brain fog, cloudiness, or whatever you want to word it. And at certain times, like I've been here, laid at this apartment where I'm at now, and I'll literally run into my bed, lie into my bed, and I've had like all insulation. I've got a quilt full of insulation actually still here, and bags full of insulation. So I've had all that up against my window, my TV box, and all stuff like that. It's minimised it, doesn't stop it. I jump into my bed really quick, like there, silent as a mouse. You know, not even making a breath sound, and it'll come not long, in a few minutes, from my front room area till I can hear it outside my bedroom window on the balcony. It'll be using the balcony right next to it, the apartment above there, and it starts blasting me while I'm laid in my bed. And I start feeling uncomfortable, I start hearing it, start getting affected by it. I have to get out of bed, and then I'll run back into my front room, then back into my bedroom, back into my second bedroom, into my hallway. Just a hellish ordeal. Do you know what I mean? Just torture. And thankfully, it struggles more to get me here. It still gets me. So that's another thing here where I live now. So I've got a communal stairway, and if it's like 2 a.m. or something, like say if it really started blasting me after this interview or something, which is probably going to be doing, like, and I start feeling like uncomfortable if I go and lay in bed, then like say if I went and stood in communal stairway, they'll know I'm there. This tag phenomenon. You start hearing it outside, angry sounds. It starts getting frustrated, and it's just hell, living hell. So you start feeling uncomfortable then that you stood in this communal stairway, just bash the door in and kill you and go. Why couldn't it? So then you, after 20 minutes, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm better off in my apartment. You know what I mean? Just no escape, just hell, just horrible. And also, so there's been certain groups or a group that's like spoke to these beings supposedly. Hyson, the one who's the leader of the clans around these parts, and he says it's not them, it's a dark entity. BS. I know my enemy after all these hours. I mean, it's not changed from the beginning up until now. Do you know what I mean? So I could write it. So that's another thing. So lately at this place, I started keeping a written account. I had not been keeping track of it, but I started keeping a written account. For like, the harassment started, I'm now sat in the hallway, I'm scared, I'm feeling this, all that sort of thing. And if I'd have done that all the way through this ordeal, my written account would be thicker than the Bible. And I'm not exaggerating. It's not both. It's not both. Just saying it would be some right pages. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I started keeping a written account, and I often have audio recorders going here just as a deterrent. So for that group to turn around and say that it's not these beings, it's a dark entity, it's not, they're deceiving you. I know what's harassing me from point go up until this point. I ain't changed. All these same things.
Yeah, and you've seen them as well.
Oh, many times. Yeah. I bet I've had over 10 sightings, maybe even 12. None of them have been amazingly epic, but I have had them.
I wonder if you did like a sleep study, if they would see your brain, if they would come get you there. You know what I'm talking about? When you do like a sleep apnea study, they dress you up like the Predator. They put like nodes everywhere. I've had one. It's awful. You can't sleep, so you may not even make a difference. But it's to see if you got sleep apnea. I wonder if they could, because it measures brain waves and things.
I'm not sure. I know at times my pulse has been through the roof and stuff like that. Apparently this infrasound can, like, when it's too enough intensity, can like vibrate the eyeballs in your head. It blurs your vision, can cause all like heart and heart palpitations, anxiety. I would really stress that word, anxiety, especially when they started harassing me at this third place, because I was like, why are they turning up here to harass me when they struggle to get to me a lot more here? Like now, I'm sat in my front room, there's a balcony right above me here. Got some disco lights in the window just to get some eyes looking up. But anyway, so it's harder for them to get me here, and I can retreat right back into my apartment. Do you know what I mean? Still get affected, but it's harder for them. And I know defensive moves now, like putting stuff up against windows, all that sort of thing. So why even bother turning up just to like spend a night and a bit of day and a bit of next night blasting me? And so when they started turning up, it made me very uncomfortable that they were going to do something even worse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Maybe it just kind of ages out since it's getting less and less. Like the generations. I think
it's down to the actual place where I'm living. Because when I moved from that roof apartment, I looked through all properties from my sister, and we went through. We knew then of the woo factor, should we say? So every place I was looking at was taken into consideration. You know what I mean? If there's any woods near it, no, we weren't doing it. If it had to be like the ideal would be like a middle apartment in a tower block of apartments. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That would be the ideal. But like what I ended up going for was like an apartment above a shop with an apartment above that's got a balcony, and you can still get
more urban. It's a more urban area.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's about 1 mile from Chesterfield Town Centre. When I talked about them harassing me in that hotel that night, that's literally about 6 of a mile, or right next to the police station, and it was on a Saturday night or something like that, a really busy night. So when there was harassing me at the roof apartment in the daytime, I'd hear the police helicopter sometimes above, stuff like that. Didn't seem to bother it, Still carry on.
That's insane. You're not insane. I'm just saying it's an insane concept.
Yeah,
they have that close.
I mean, like I say, I won't wish it on anybody, and probably tuning into me now or whatever. And so just to balance it out, just these beings are worthy of great respect and like fear. Beware of them, and in my opinion, don't bother them. That's my advice. Mm-hmm. And even if you are like making the right moves and thinking that you're befriending them, I thought that at one point, so it could be well into, like, I've read a lot of this the wrong way, like it's very hard to understand these beings. They're very different to us, and so it's been so hard for me to read, bearing in mind that there's no information coming from them, no talking, no communication, trying all this mind speak and stuff. It seems like it can tune into me, but it's never said anything back. You know what I mean? So it's very hard
What
to.
about dreams?
No, they've never affected me in my dreams. That's never happened. So
I've heard one guy, he said they would talk to him in his dreams. Just
yeah, there's a lot of people say that, and people what are having good interactions with them claim that as well. That they can like.
Yeah, it was always the good interactions, never the bad.
Yeah. So no, I've never had that. It's always been just evil harassment, and it's pretty much always been consistent infrasounding and intimidation at times by sightings and stuff like that. And the tag for them, definitely.
Like their ultimate weapon, just
yeah. Carry on. Sorry, I thought I got something.
I was going to say we'll wrap it up here in a second, but I did have one of my listeners, Lionel. He writes for a Bigfoot article here in the States. He had a question for you. Yep. Maybe he just says, "What do you think about it being a magical being like the boggart or the silky?"
Yeah, okay, so it's interesting that you mentioned that word, that boggart, because I've used to follow a channel on YouTube called Boggart's Tabernacle. Yeah, and it was a guy who was going around filming all these structures, saying it was a boggart, but they're identical structures to what I was filming. What's a Bigfoot, young Bigfoot? So I don't know if that's the same word. It is a boggart, a Bigfoot. I guess my question.
No, I've never heard of it till right now. So I'm checking it out.
Yeah.
It's more of a troll.
Yeah. So
Harry Potter. What the?
Definitely. Bearing in mind that what started my recordings, prompted my recordings, was that sighting from a guy who seen what he described as an 8-foot tall, monkey-faced, hair-covered being on Robin Hood Lane in Wat Stanwell. Passed in front of his car, didn't even look at him, and just carried on walking. And interestingly, he couldn't even find any footprints from it. So he seen a monkey-faced, hair-covered being, Bigfoot. The ones that were looking at me when I was laid on my settee with the red eyes swaying left to right were definitely Bigfoots. And the cone-head was definitely a Bigfoot. And the young one that ran across the road was definitely a Bigfoot. The one with the red eyes in the train line, in my mind, that could have been a dog man. I don't know. It had big red eyes, like they look that size. They look big, very big. And then I seen that same red eyes 2/3 of the way up the field when I was sat in the car trying to figure out what I'd been recording. And then these two what were swaying left to right had red eyes. So it's been Bigfoot beings what have been harassing me, but I've no doubt that they come accompanied by all sorts of other things. For example, on this last night's game camera, there's a Sasquatch. So I know my own cliff face, and I've got photographs of that tree with nothing even resembling anything close to a Sasquatch head or a black-eyed green alien. And that's what's there in that tree opposite my second bedroom window. I'll send you a link to a 5-minute video clip. It's all distorted, but that's what's there. And later on in the night, in the top right-hand corner, 3 more beings come, a younger one, and they seem to have like horns on the head. And the reason I'm saying that is because you can see the light reflecting off their eyeballs when they come forward, and you can see them doing, making the frequencies, helping make the frequencies. And you see the light reflecting on their eyeballs, and you also see like light reflected off what looks like horns. And there's one that looks like he's got like a cock nose, big pointy nose.
That could be a boggart. That's what boggarts look like. I don't know.
I think what I've been up against has been a combination of all sorts of cryptids, what have all teamed up to give me hell, including.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. That's the most extreme I've heard about. Even though a lot of the things you said have been consistent to what other people, almost like word for word. Minus
I'd agree, and I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I'm not like, oh, poor me, poor me. I'm just telling it straight. 3 months, 2 nights, remember, I was declaring that I felt like I was halfway towards a mental breakdown. 2 nights. Yeah, that went on for 3 months in Matlock. Drove me out of that home. 4 months further, day and night. You know what I mean? As many hours as it could. They're not struggling for time to devote to evil harassment. They love it. Thrive on it. You know what I mean? So 4 months there, and then even now it continues. But them two places was the worst. But I certainly angered them.
I would say so.
Cryptid enemy number one.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I have a guy in Colorado that actually, I'm not saying he knows how to solve it, but I'm going to ask him about it. What could be a solution?
Oh, you don't mean Sasquatch, Ontario? No, he said Colorado.
No. This is Colorado. This is
So I've gone down this avenue. So just to mention to your listeners, so I went through a process here. When they turned on me and started harassing me, I went through a process of trying to stop it. So I went through a process of like being angry at first and say get lost, then saying sorry, then like gifting, then trying to ignore them, then all these different things, putting cameras up, putting audio recordings up, blasting them with my torches, all these sorts of things, and playing prayers and playing mantras and playing positivity statements. Basically, like tried everything, and there's no solution, not unstoppable. Do you know what I mean? Which is not a nice feeling when you've got something so powerful, what just don't stop and seems to. So they're very different to us, and it seems to delight in like torturing me. Like I know I keep mentioning it tonight. Just trust me when I say, like, I know when it's present and it knows what. Do you know what I mean? And I mentioned to you earlier before we spoke that it's very chilled and all that sort of thing and stuff, and probably well in tune with what's going off right now, sort of thing. That's how funky these beings are. Do you know what I mean? In their abilities. And so so ultimate enemy, and just nothing stops them. So you can put all this, put phone earbuds in, things on your head and stuff like that, and even that don't stop it. Horrible. I have to cover up your extractor fan in your bathroom. You know what I mean? Like, and where I am right now, the neighbour here, I'm positive she's got, she's starting to like suffer the consequences of my actions, and I feel really bad for that. Do you know what I mean? Because
you think she's getting it too?
Yeah. Basically, they've been looking for tactics here where they'll wait till the shop's shut and the neighbour's lights go out before it starts really blasting me heavily. But that doesn't always work perfect for it. Do you know what I mean? And I hear the neighbour like stamping about and stuff like that, slamming the door and stuff. You know what I mean? All this sort of thing. And certainly she's got to be aware. Yeah.
She probably thinks she's going nuts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with me?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I agree. But one thing I've been doing that's another thing I've been trying to do to deter it. When it comes harassing me, I'll play my interview on YouTube and crank it right up on my speakers. Do you know what I mean? Like play my interview really loud to whatever, neighbours, people, like just trying to deter it. You know what I mean? Just rather than just sat silent, trying everything. So that's been one of the things I've been doing, which just pisses it off. It's in other words, there's no answer that I've found. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, maybe there's something you missed. I can't think of anything.
No.
You've done it all, other than
there is an answer, and that is put yourself amongst many other people. If you're in a room with 10 people, you're safe, or 5 people, it'll not be wanting to do it. I'm not. I'm just me battling it all the time. So like, it's like there's nothing glorified in me saying, yeah, I know a lot about these beings and stuff like that. But I've been bullied. Bullied's the word. I used to work as like a door suit, like a doorman. You know what I mean? Like chucking people out of pubs and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I've been bullied to high heaven. Do you know what I mean? Never thought I'd say them words. But any man would be bullied by these beings. They're so much superior to us. They are so much superior to us. We are puny little mere weakling, pathetic things in their eyes, and in comparison to them, their abilities just run circles around us in every way, And so, just to give a bit more insight into to viewers, so these beings, I'm in contact with a group what is having positive relationships with these beings. So, using that group, I went and said some apologies and stuff like that in the woods local to me now. This is a while ago, probably 2 years now, 18 months even.
Mhm.
And I had a sighting then even. But it didn't sort of go nowhere. I just said sorry, seemed to say sorry and talk lots of times. And all I did was a bit of like trees, twig snapping and stuff like that. And then he was saying like to invite him back to your home to communicate. You'd perhaps see a shimmer in the corner of your room. And I was like, oh, actually, I'm not really down for that. But anyway, so there's this group that seems to have a positive interaction with them. Yeah, again, it's like it'd be so easy to be being deceived, wouldn't it? Let's be honest, because you know what I mean. Like these beings have never shown me any forgiveness. You know what I mean? They're like had a merciful sort of, you know what I mean? Just like, look, he's had enough now. Let's just leave him be. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
like satanically evil, evil, powerful, merciless, black heart, void of any compassion, doesn't give a flying crap about anything I'm going through, or when I've been sat on my bed. And again, there's no glory in my interview. I've been when at the roof apartment, when I was considering taking my own life because I just had enough. There were no answers, and it was following me wherever I went and stuff like that. And like I had all the supernatural aspect and just the torture of hearing it in your head all the time, like infrasounding you and chuntering and evil and horrible and affecting you and anxiety and panic attacks and all your hearing skew with your loss of balance and text phenomenon. You go out for a breather and you'd be pursued and stuff like that. All these factors all coming together for 7 months. Remember, after 2 nights, I'm halfway towards a mental breakdown. 7 months. I was broke down. I was a broken man, and I was sat on my bed, and I was crying a little bit. We all cry now and again, don't we? So I'm not ashamed to say it brought me where I was
imagine.
Like, a bit in tears, just saying like, look, please, just leave me enough so I can get my mind together to kill myself. That's all I want. Just back off, and I'll do it. I've had enough. You win. I want out. Just back off and let me just have my mind, because that's how much it affects you. Just so I can get my mind together to gather a quick and easy way to put myself out of my misery. I'm down for that. Let's do it. Just back off and give me my thought process back, sort of thing. And even then, no backing off. You know what I mean? Just carried on, just the same torturous, horrible, evil harassment of me. And I went down to my sister, and I was saying to her, I was like laid on her conservatory floor. Because remember, during all this, I've got a lovely comfy bed, but during all this, I was like sleeping in my hallways and wherever. I'd be running around my own apartment, my own home, diving behind my settee, like underneath a bit of shelter, like laying on a little like pad with a pillow and stuff, with earbuds in and stuff like that, and a pillow on my head. And even then, you're not safe. And so I've been moving to the next room, then next, chasing me from room to room. Oh, hellish ordeal. So I went to see my sister. And I was saying to her, and I was like, look, Kate, I've had enough of this. I was like, if I choose to kill myself, it's my choice. And she's like, what do you mean? Well, you can't do that. I was like, listen, I can. It's not you going through it. Let's just talk about, I've got the ultimate enemy here. Talked about all what I've just talked about. I didn't want to risk stopping at my families and bringing it on them. Do you know what I mean? So she was like, "Look, it's good to stop with Stephen." And I was like, "Do you know what, Kay? I don't want to do that because I know it'll come to Stephen's. I don't want to risk that." And that's what I ended up doing, no bless. But I laid on my sister's conservatory floor and basically having like real proper panic attacks, just like proper, like talking like, you know what I mean, like shockingly bad anxiety and panic attacks. And again, I'm not a wimpish guy. That was just a level of bullying, harassment, and infrasounding, torturous infrasounding that my head got and still gets a bit.
Yeah, that was an amazing story. I was not ready. I didn't think it got that intense.
Oh, and another thing just to mention to your viewers as well. So, sent Bobby. So what I've got is hundreds of gigabytes, a long-winded, boring evidence crap, whatever you want to call it.
It's a ton.
Yeah, like loads of it. Like, I've literally got like 200 gigabyte on Google Drive, and I deleted loads. My sister made me delete loads, but I've got loads of long-winded, boring evidence of these beings, basically. Excuse me. Again, camera footage where they want it and stuff, but again, it's these beings are always one step ahead. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to prove anything into it. Do you know what I mean? And what evidence you do get is like, you know, like fake owl calls and stuff like that. It's pretty. I watched Hidden Existence channel and stuff like that, calling out pareidolia. And yet I know what's on that cliffside on my last night, opposite my bedroom window, second bedroom window, and in that top right-hand corner. But because they blurred that game camera out to high heaven, it looks like it's 2 megapixel. It just literally looks like green blotchy graphics all over. Do you know what I mean?
I think I saw that.
Yeah, you might, and it just looked good. So even I at times, I'm like, oh, is it there? Is it there? Is it? Yeah, it is. No, yeah, it is. And it is. But it's like that's how much they blurred out that camera. And yet they're only directly opposite that camera. You know, the camera's picking up all the evil infrasound and sticks snapping and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, but
that stuff sounds like wow, 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 wow.
So that's another thing as well. They could do it all night long, which sounds crazy. So Scott Carpenter mentions this. I've not heard anybody else mention it, and I'd say it's very likely the case where these beings can talk on the inhale and the exhale. Just, you know, I'm not going to claim that, but I'm just saying, just open your minds up to that possibility as well, because that certainly fits my scenario where it could do it constantly. Like,
I had somebody last week tell me that.
Did you manage to breathe in and still be doing and breathe in? You know what I mean? Yeah. Again, they surpass us in every way, shape, and form, and that just might be another way that they surpass us with a.
Yeah, I had somebody like 6 days ago tell me that same thing. Well, inhale and exhale talk. Yeah. The Sierra sounds.
Yeah. So.
All right, man. I'm going to let you go. It is getting toward the time. I don't want to keep you up too much later since it's like 3 a.m. over there.
2 a.m. now. So just to mention to your listeners, just to be careful, you know, and that site, that Sasquatch Awareness Project, Scott Carpenter on YouTube, is a really great source of information.
All right, I'll put that in the description.
Yeah, good man.
Put it here too.
And wish me luck. I'll probably begin a bit.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna check. I'm gonna check back in with you. I'm concerned, to say the least.
I can cope with what I'm dealt nowadays, but I'm just fed up. I'm just fed up on them. It's just like I mean, so I mentioned that I've reached out to these people that are in contact with me in a good way, and these beings just lie and say it's not them. Just say it's a dark entity what's attached to me. No, I know my enemies. You know what I mean? After all these countless hours.
Yeah, at least you didn't end it. At least you didn't end it all when it got the worst.
Yeah.
You got through that.
So another way I nearly ended it as well was that when it was blasting me that time at work, I was convinced it was in the back of my van because my head was ringing that bad from it. And who's to say where? You know, basically even on journey back home after I phoned my foreman and said I was going off with stress and anxiety, I felt like it was in the back of my van, and I was considering crashing my van at 100 miles an hour to kill me and kill that. That's what went through my mind on way back. And I was driving my works van, and I was like, I'm going to fucking do it. I've had enough, and I want to take that out with me. And that's one thing that was going through my mind. You know, just that's how intense things got. Where I had a transit work van in a long wheelbase Harvey on my tools, and I went back, driving back after I phoned in with that anxiety, you know, to my foreman and that. And I felt like it went back in my van. Like, if that it's a weird phenomenon, this infrasound, where it doesn't just leave your head immediately after, you know, it'll carry, your head will be ringing for hours after, do you know what I mean? Sort of thing. And I felt like I went back in my van, and I was considering wanting to kill myself and kill that. And I was contemplating, I was convinced it went back in my van, and so I wanted to crash my van 100 miles an hour to kill me, to kill that. But I pulled up near Somerset Park, just pulled up randomly, jumped out of my van, had my recorder going, opened my side door of my van, just wanting to film, to catch it in back of me, you know, nothing. And I was like, you know, boom, head blow, you know, just horrible. So,
I'm glad you didn't. Yeah.
Because it went in back of my van there, so I'm glad.
Yeah.
It had one up on me then. No.
Well, all right, guys. Thanks for I'm gonna go ahead and end the live. But thanks for listening, everybody. I think it's it is time. I've got a separate life, sadly.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. It's been an amazing story. Thanks for all the questions, everybody, and thanks for the story, Rob.
Okay, no problem.